Okay, happy Friday, day 5. I'm so grateful to be sharing some of the little lessons that I've learned, some of the stories that come to me, and I just pray every day, what do I need to share? And I just thought of this a different type of storms. We think of, kind of the storms we've been talking about with the divorces, the deaths, the downsizing, some of the struggles with maybe taking care of a handicapped child for a long time, things that never seem to end, and then some of the spiritual storms of just losing our path. But I was thinking about something to share today about navigating some of the tsunamis in life. I don't know if you've ever experienced or seen a tsunami, maybe you're just online. But about 15 years ago, I thought I'd share something that really could tie in some truths and things that I have found and what I've experienced. About 15 years ago or so, I went and took two of my children to India to experience helping in orphanages. The children orphanages were there, about 50 children in Chennai, India, and by the Indian Ocean. And I went with my sister, my niece, and one of my best friends. And we were going to be helping out some of the teachers in giving them a break and helping with the children. And to backstory, the children that were there in the orphanages parents were in a leper colony, so they were dying basically, and they were there and supported. And one of the gentlemen that ran the whole thing was a beautiful man named Gopi, and he was from India. And when I heard about him, before I met him, I was very, very excited. I don't know if you've ever met anybody that you heard about and you're so excited to hear kind of life they lived and the values they had and the intuition they had. And he was very, very spiritual. And the tsunami had hit the year that we went, or it was a year around the time that we were coming. And he was very spiritual, very intuitive, and he valued the Lord. He loved the Lord, and he was over these children, and it was close to the Indian Ocean. And he had a dream well before the tsunami hit, and he had never even known about a tsunami really. And in the dream, he saw the tsunami hit. He saw it was getting close to the school, and he woke up from the dream, and he moved the children away from far away from where the storm might hit. And it was a week or a couple days later that the storm had taken over and went into this, would have, had very much jeopardized these children. And he acted, first of all, he believed. He was primed before, because he was ready for spiritually the storms before they come. He knew the Lord. He valued dreams, and then he acted, and he got those kids out of the area before the tsunami hit. And I just thought, it was just so amazed to hear him when I finally got to meet him, just the light that shone in his eyes and the value that he had. And I was thinking about how we have tsunamis that affect our, we don't have tsunamis here in Georgia, but we have tornadoes and we have hurricanes and things like that, the aftermath of a hurricane. But tsunami just wipes out so much. And we have the unruly waters cellularly. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the greatest storms is when you have ill health. And that's what I've been sharing a lot of different things. But today I felt like I want to share something that has to do with the value of health and the cellular terrain, and what we feed our bodies really matter, and how that we can help communicate and direct those unruling waters, the cellular, the terrain, and the communication within, to be able to guard off disease. And so when many of you may know my story, I won't go into all of it, but I just, we learned with, Dave, my husband, it was about 30 years ago, picture perfect of health, and had a couple symptoms that were dismissed by top doctors. His blood level looked fine, and then pursued it more, pushed them to do more testing, and he had a tumor the size of a grapefruit on top of his adrenal gland. And that's how we started learning about how does cancer come, how does disease. We don't always know things are happening, because things have happened underneath the water line of, we don't realize until we have a symptom that disease has developed, just like an iceberg, pops out of the water when it's grown and been enlarged. And so I began learning and learned on my husband. He was my first client, I guess you would call it. The Lord opened this door for me, and he does. The Lord gives us ways to experience. The Lord forewarned me that in dreams that the way to navigate and helping my husband live. He got 80 extra years, and I wanted to share that the storms that we have, we really can't manage in a life well unless we're healthy. And so I learned a lot of things, and I'll just share a few things that I felt led to share today about some of the great storms are within, and we can do 70 to 90% of diseases can be prevented through whole food and living food and food with color. And I want to give you some understanding about why it's so important, and that food is your best medicine. It is what I call the pharmacy, F-A-R, pharmacy. It's where we open up the internal pharmacy by moving the blood, by feeding the body, and dispensing the medicine that God put in food, but not just to be thin or just to be a good idea. It's this micronutrition that helps to work within the cellular physiology of how cells behave, how they react, how they communicate wellness. And it's like a fish sitting in a fish tank. If it doesn't have a good solution, it's going to die. And so if we have a cell sitting in a certain solution that's caused by creating more of an alkaline terrain, that solution that the cells are bathed in, it promises better optimal health, rejuvenation, duplication, better Xeroxing, and we have what we call fire extinguishers. Hello, Jesse. So good to see you. And what I learned in my journey of being a naturopathic doctor, it's been almost 27 years now, is the reverence of whole food. And I learned that one of the things I learned that like I mentioned, food isn't just a good idea. It's so powerful that can save your life. And the variety is what's really, really important. And I wanted to share with you something that when I first was learning, I learned from one of my mentors was Dr. Santillo. And he was one of the top recognized visionary and pioneer of the field of natural therapeutics. And he's an author of probably 10 books, Food Enzymes, The Message Linked to Radiant Health. He was kind of like the pioneer before everything started happening in early 1900s or 1993-ish. And when I started reading from what he was talking about, food has energy and there's organ specific. Foods that have color, they actually target communication for different organs of your body. So for example, I just turned today, I thought I'd share a couple things, but for example, foods that heal the heart are things like cilantro, they clean the blood, dandelion greens, green beans, green grapes, and lime. Then we have things that help circulation would be acorn squash, beets, cucumbers, ginger, radishes, red cabbage, red pepper, romaine, and strawberries. What about the bladder? Blueberries, broccoli, celery, greens, lemon, lettuces, mustard green, onion, oranges. Are you getting hungry? Parsley, red grapes, romaine, spinach, and turnips. Things like the liver, carrots, dandelion greens, endive, grapefruit, lettuce, parsley, spinach, tomatoes. And the things go on. And things like kidneys, what helps our kidneys are things like beets and ginger and grapefruit and green peppers and parsley and zucchini. But he identified the vibrations of certain foods that are organ specific. That means they help certain organs to thrive and to be well. And he actually created a foundational nutritional protocol that all these foods would work together in synergy to cross over to help all the other parts, because every organ is connected to other organs. And that's how he created what we call Juice Plus. It's a plant powder, it's concentrated raw fruits and vegetables. It was not a vitamin concept. It was superior to a vitamin. There's only 12 vitamins. They'll try, I think 12 or 13 vitamins. And food has thousands of plant nutrients, antioxidants, phytonutrients, polyphenols, beta carotene, all these different properties, but the vitamins are intact in the mess of all the other things they haven't even identified. They're still learning about these things. And so when I started learning about getting more plants, my husband and I were eating a lot of plants. We turned to be a vegetarian at the time. We started juicing fruits and vegetables because if I was going to help my husband go from a 6-month countdown, death sentence, I wanted to extend his life. We were led through prayer, through education, that food does, it's kind of like God's chemotherapy. And so we started learning how to bridge the gap, and we did juicing. And that was really good, but the problem was it's expensive and it took a lot of time. It took me about an hour to juice a gallon, and I was using a lot of carrots and apples. And I wanted to get some of the most potent vegetables that were not so palatable. And then I started dehydrating them. I tried to sprout them and wheatgrass, and it was really hard to get it all in. And we did it for about 2 years, and about 90% of the metastases of his cancer were not seen on the scan. And I thought, oh my gosh, he didn't have any treatment. And this was like God's chemotherapy really showing its way to me, and to see our families learning to see how food is the medicine there. And then I wanted to get out of the kitchen. And so I had been introduced to Juice Plus for about 2 years before I ever decided to go hear the doctor. I never knew, I thought it was for somebody else. I just thought, oh, I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. And then I started realizing I don't eat the variety. I don't eat the peelings, which is what Juice Plus is, crushed plants with the peelings intact. And it wasn't daily. I did really good some days I didn't do good at all. And I wanted to have an armor suit around my family, and an edge for my husband, an armor suit for me. I have good health. I want to raise the bar. My children, I want to protect them from the sneaky diseases. And so we started learning as I went to the doctor to hear this expert doctor, Dr. Rick Du Bois. He was the expert in infectious disease at the time, and saying, teaching about the research and the bioavailability, and it was plant powders. It was real food with generational farmers. And so I, as a naturopath, started working on the inner storms, because I've been talking this whole week about storms, spiritual storms, how to navigate. But if we're not healthy, we can't really fully maximize the storms in our lives with taking care of those that we love that are sick, or to be able to serve God in the way we want, because we're not halted by the tsunamis that suddenly stop us. And so I really learned more about the power of Juice Plus. And then as the years went on and I continued getting my degree, I used this as a bridge, a foundational bridge to help my clients. So they all struggled. I don't know anybody that I know that never struggled to get 9 to 13 servings of variety, raw, vine-ripe fruits and vegetables, because in the stores they're not vine-ripened. And who wouldn't want to have the better health, and free for children from age 4 to 25. So all my kids, we started it. I was so grateful that I finally got it. I wasn't too, I was a healthy skeptic. I wanted to know enough, and I looked at the research, and it blew me out of the water. And then I started learning more and more as we were experiencing, seeing how we felt, how we were, our immunes were really strong. My kids, if they got sick, usually it was just a couple of days, compared to some of their friends was longer in school. And I used to always be constipated when I first started. It was about 30 plus years ago. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, I never have ever had any problem with regularity ever again. After I got my bowels were trained, I have only been to well visits in 25 years. I go to get well checkups. I am using the food to anchor myself. I even use it therapeutically if needed, because now we have a drinkable, a capsule, a chewable. And we have clean plant-based shakes that are perfect protein score, and so much they researched within cancer patients, and now it's used now in U.S. Olympic training centers are using the Juice Plus protocol. They even put Juice Plus in feeding tube because it is food. It is not a vitamin. It's food powder. It's concentrated plant powders. And so I was into getting more raw food. This was our bridge, and it became our juicing alternative. So hello, everybody watching. And so as I continue to learn about the organ specific and variety, there's lots of things that I wanted to share with you too about the value of eating the rainbow. If you haven't got this book, it's really good. I want to give you some tools too. Fiber Fuel by Will Bulsovic, and it's plant-based. It's how to have best gut health. And as we learn about the microbiome, it is the variety where cells are really, it's really the direction crew, the kind of the pilot of how our bodies work with the 70% of our immune system takes place with this construction crew in our gut, and it eats vegan matter, eats the more variety, the more variety of microbiome, the bacteria that helps to work within the whole body. And this is what this doctor said. He is a board certified award-winning gastroenterologist. He's a chief gut health doctor, written many papers, featured in many magazines. And just to give a little side note, we talk about food being, I call it Pac-Man nutrition, gobble up all the bad stuff. But just to reinforce what food does in a minute, I want to make sure that you know that the average child gets 5 servings of pesticide residue per day in their food and water and air. Prepackaged lettuce, if we think we're getting that as in getting our vegetables, prepackaged lettuce in the store is washed in chlorine 20 times more concentrated than found in an average pool. The average adult uses 9 personal care products, exposing them to 126 chemicals per day. So I have used in my practice 3 different modalities, and one of them is nutrition, to Juice Plus, to bind the heavy metals, the toxins, to make way for the inner house to work, okay? The construction crew to work if we're not tripping over garbage. So it binds the toxins. But this is what this doctor said. If I could say one paragraph of what he summarized in this big fat book about the microbiome, which is 70% of the immune system, which is really about how cancer develops, how any disease develops. He says, the single greatest predictor of a healthy gut microbiome is the diversity of plants in one's diet. More specifically, he found that a consumption of 30 different plants in a given week was the greatest predictor of a gut microdiversity. Believe it or not, this was far more important and more powerful than whether you're self-identified as a vegan, a vegetarian, or an omnivore. So it's really about diversity of plants. And the reason what I mentioned before was the diversity, the different plants target different parts of the body. And when you get we have in Juice Plus, I was so impressed. They have generational farmers that have been growing for 35 years. And so when I got to go see the farm, I was blown away. I saw those trucks come in, the vine ripened produce. I see how they were washed 7 times before they get into the actual capsule. I saw the transfer from the trucks over to the washing center, and they crushed the whole plant in more of a blending versus a juicing concept. So I was impressed. I'm getting the peeling of the orange rind, all the rinds of the blueberries, and the whole pumpkin was crushed, not juiced. And so I was just blown away. And so I just wanted to tell you that I was so grateful that I have known these things. And my husband got 8 extra years with health. I know it was faith, prayer, and of course prayer and a fighting spirit, and nutrition was one of the biggest things. And I want to share you a couple. Hey Nick, it's so good to see you. I miss you. And I was grateful to share my family story, but also some of my clients. So I was just going to read a couple of those to see the power of nutrition. I was talking to a lady today, and she's a pharmacist, and she was going to try Juice Plus out. And I said, well, we're not going to try it. It works. Food works, okay? And so we don't want to try to go to the gym. You don't try to pick up a piece of paper. You either pick it up or you don't. Let's go in with the mindset, this is food. We need more of it. But here are some of the powerful testimonials of food as medicine to help fight the storms. This is from a lady named Ruth, and she's a homemaker, and I helped her. And she said, I started Juice Plus raw fruits and vegetables in capsule. I was trying to balance out my body. I had irritable bowel syndromes, diabetes, high cholesterol, taking depression medication, and I was very overweight. After 4 months of being on Juice Plus, getting all this whole food in my body, I got great results from my doctor. No diabetes, cholesterol was normal, bowels were regular and formed, and lost 12 pounds. I have a lot more energy now, and it's not from stimulation, but whole food. That was amazing. Here's another one. She's the owner of a store, a Jump to It. It's called owner of Jump to It for children. They play in the area. She said, my daughter had asthma so severe that she was put on several medications and treatments. She was often sick, and her lungs had been scarred due to intense coughs and medication and repeated episode with asthma. After a few months on Juice Plus plant powders, she felt much better and started discontinuing some of the medications. And after a few months, she went off all the medications she had and not been sick for over 2 years while taking Juice Plus. This past year, she had one cold, which led to a cough. I took her to the specialist, and he looked at her once scarred lungs and asked, "What have you been doing?" And she was a little worried. She goes, what do you mean? The doctor said, she shared with the surprise news there of no scarred lungs, which he was shocked and never saw such miracle in that short amount of time. So heads up on that. Isn't that cool how the body can heal? The body can heal. Let me see if I can read another one. Here's another one. For years, I have struggled with my weight, which contributed to sleep apnea, hormone imbalance, and borderline type 2 diabetes, and required a seizure. It had a little bit of acquired seizure disorder. I found myself faced with taking a myriad of medications in the remainder of my life to relieve symptoms. In November, a certain year, my sister died at the age of 43 after a series of preventable, debilitating illnesses. I recognized that I was on the same path as my sister, so I embarked on a new road to good health. I began with a diet rich in whole grains and raw fruits and vegetables and cut down on meats and refined sugars significantly. I also began supplementing my diet with whole food concentrate Juice Plus. It was researched. And within just a few weeks, I found myself with more energy, sleeping better at night. And a few more weeks after that, I realized I was craving little sugar. My taste buds for whole vegetables and fruits was enhanced. I found myself automatically choosing the healthier snacks because that's what I wanted. It's called the metabolic reprogramming. You start changing that. Your gut begins to change as the food begins to retain those microbiome, the good bugs. She said, I have lost 45 pounds so far, more energy, less chronic pain, and my sleep apnea has significantly decreased. So it's just like so amazing. Oh my gosh, I just love. Here was one from my one of my swim coaches. I have had bleeding in my right eye from all the blood thinners. Went to the diabetic eye specialist after 2 months of being on Juice Plus. And my vision without glasses is now 20/20 and no signs of edema. My A1C reading is down from 8.5 a year ago. I'm thrilled, and that is such a exciting thing. I rechecked it with her, and she said she's still doing great. Oh my gosh, tooth infections. Sandra Parks, if you're listening, she had come in years ago and had blood cancer, and her doctor said she's going to have to do chemotherapy and to clean out her blood. And so she decided to do the Reset program, which is really about cleaning the blood and binding the toxins. And it's a program wrapped around Juice Plus. So it gives you a clean eating plan, no processed food at all, and flooding your body with whole food. After 4 months with her blood cancer all gone, that was a miracle. Her doctor said never seen anything like that. 4 months on a Reset program. Faye Deveray, she was one that I really love her. She shared a story with her 2 boys that had ADHD. They were called into the principal daily, literally daily, if not weekly, and for years. And after 4 months on Juice Plus, they were called in maybe 2 to 3 times a year. So 2 to 3 times a day for 2 to 3 times a year, it tipped the scale on the mood of the child. Let's see what else. Oh, I got so many. Anyway, we've got a lot of good things. I have our omega. We have vegan omegas, by the way, too. So many people looking for getting off fish oil. They don't want fishy burps. We have a vegan omega that helps create a better brain health, better lower cholesterol, helps the heart health and eye health and skin. And one of my a gentleman I was working with, he had a lot of severe acne as an adult. 2 years he was working with different doctors, couldn't really get a handle on this acne. He started working with our Reset program, started swallowing the capsules and using the omegas. Topically, we started putting them on the skin as well as eating them. His scarring and severe acne was gone in 6 to 8 months. And after 2 years of medication, 2 years of medication not working, and 0 scars. So, oh my gosh, I just loved sharing with you. Hello, Lorna. Hello, everyone joining in. But I've been talking the last week about storms, and today I wanted to mention a little bit about the tsunamis, the physical things we prepare for, being insightful, being able to recognize the Lord speaking to us through dreams or impressions or friends or music or scriptures, and then working on priming our bodies for some of the things that come our way that can be reduced by getting a plant-based focus, a plant-based forward diet. It doesn't mean you have to be a vegetarian, but a plant-based forward getting at least 75% of your plate being a variety of plants. And that's where disease starts with inflammation, and plants get to the root cause of lowering inflammation. And then we combine that with the 4 cores of health: movement, nutrition, water, sunshine, and then flooding our bodies with a bridge to help make sure we're getting it. And I'll close out with this story. One of my friends, Lou Martin, if you're listening to this, I just recorded your story yesterday, and you were struggling with obesity, had a triple bypass surgery. He had high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and he had bouts of diverticulitis. And he started getting one simple change, was just flooding the body with 30 raw fruits and vegetables in a concentrate, which is plus drinking water. That was all he started with. And because of that, he started seeing more energy, drinking water, taking whole food concentrates. He started realizing he had energy to want to go to the gym. Started to go to the gym. Then he started his cravings started to change, eating better. Then he started to, get off some of the processed food and make a spiral of things that happened. he worked with that cellular tsunami, and within 8 months, I think it was about 8 months, it was about 67 pounds down. No bouts with diverticulitis. He was off all cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication. He's actually getting married in a month. Oh my gosh! And he's like over 70. His second marriage, his wife had passed away. So I just wanted to come on and just tell you how grateful I am to have been able to help those that I love, myself included, fight storms because of the health, because of self-care, because of taking Juice Plus was a one bridge to help me make sure I got what I needed, and then eating more plants, eating a variety, and then getting good nutrition every single day, and then helping our families be wrapped in this armor suit. And when I do things at schools, I always like to make visuals, so maybe I'll end with a little visual. I always think, a fire extinguisher. Do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? Well, we need to have one inside our bodies, and that's plants. Plants, they put out the fires, and that's how disease starts. And what else? I always teach the kids, it's like, do you have plumbers? What happens if your toilet gets stopped up? Okay, so we have plants help unstop. We got open up the space within the, get rid of the sticky stuff in the blood. We get the plungers working on. We have the surgeons and the construction crew that fix things that are broken, and that happens at night with good nutrition. What else do we have that work? A fire extinguisher, maid service, surgeon, plumber. Oh, there's so many different things out there now. My mind went blank. Anyway, I want you to know that plants do a lot. They're not just a good idea. They can actually save your life. So give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm saying, and I look forward to sharing with you another day. I've got 2 more days to go with live, and I'm excited about more things to come. Make it a great Friday, and keep eating real food and watching out for those tsunamis that some of you know coming and some that you don't, but better be on top of it before, so we have something to fight with.